All right, guys, it is Friday. It's about 4:30 p.m. So I had to do some cleaning up under this car. It looked pretty nasty with all the crap that had fallen down. So I put the wheels back on it. I put a furniture dolly underneath this to roll it out of the way to get this up a little closer. So anyway, I had to mow my yard, and I was thinking about putting this over in the grass and then taking my car out tomorrow and cruising it a little bit. But this thing pushes and moves pretty easy, so I think I'll just go ahead and do a little bit of work this evening. Right about when it gets dark, I'll stop. So I think I'm going to go ahead and cut my spacers loose from the door, where I have the door welded to the B-pillar. These were my spacers to get my gap. So I'm going to go ahead and take these loose, and that way I can open the door and I can get the self-drilling screws out of the B-pillar holding the jamb on. I'm going to go ahead and take the quarter off of the car and set it to the side. And I think I'm going to go ahead and patch all the little pieces that need to be patched on the inside. Alright, I'm going to be patching this down here and this little section here. I need to get this out of here. I'm going to have to try to fab these, and I have to patch that there. I removed the seal here, which is stapled on, so I need to go in and remove all these staples. But anyway, I may go ahead and order a new set. I just don't know yet. Probably will, because the other one's pretty crunchy. But anyway, the bottom of this section here, I'm not worried about this because I'm building all new backside of rockers. But this piece right through here is rusted through. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to do it tonight because it'll make a huge mess, but I'm going to blast all this with my little blaster. I'm going to lay plastic out and blast it, and then I'll have to sweep it all up and sift it back into the blaster and stuff. But anyway, this has a bead in it right here, and the end of it is gone. So anyway, I went out and I got the rear door from the 55 four-door that I used the skin piece on the quarter, and I used a caliper, and this bead is the exact same size. So there is a spot right up here. I'll blast this area right here when I get the blaster out here tomorrow. But anyway, I'll just cut off a big square piece here that I need and patch that, butt weld it in, grind it both sides, and it should be nice. Should be pretty easy to fix, pretty straightforward. So I've got to take this off. Now I am going to hand fabricate a new one of these, and so I'll have to remove this, but there is a rust hole in the body right there, so I'm going to have to patch that and then hand fab this, and then I'm going to replace this piece right here from the four-door. But I'm going to patch the body first, the inside of the trunk area right there, replace that piece, butt weld it in, grind both sides, and then put this piece on, plug weld it back on. And then I'll have to move on to this piece. So anyway, I can kind of see where this is supposed to be. So I'm going to hand build all of this piece here and replace all this. So I have to build it all by hand. It's probably going to have to be made from a couple of pieces, and then I'll just grind it and shape it and do what I need to do. But anyway, this will get fixed. And then this piece up here, this is pretty messed up, rusted through here. This is where they had put a quarter piece on before, and it's actually cut through here, kind of cracked up or something. So I think I'm just gonna like cut it through here and across to there and replace that piece right there from the other car. A little bit of patching to do, but you know, it won't be too bad. It'll be pretty fun. But I'm going to blast all this first so I can, you know, make sure I've got good metal out around where I can cut into clean good metal, you know what I mean? Alright, so you guys seen how it's fairly easy to remove the old undercoat. It's kind of hit and miss on these cars, but when they do build it up real heavy like that, that's about the only way to get it off without making a huge mess. Anyway, you try to get it off with a scraper and it doesn't really come off, but anyway, it makes a huge mess. And you don't really have to heat it that long. It's just enough to get it semi-soft, and then it kind of lets go, and then you can just scrape it. But anyway, I removed the rear wheelhouse or splash shield, whatever you want to call it. It's laying there. These are two-piece on these cars. So this piece goes up in here, and this is a spot with a lot of rust in it, so I'm gonna have to patch the part in the body. So all I did was drill out the spot welds, and I didn't go through the body. Now I'll go through and grind off these remnants of metal that's left sticking up, and then I'm gonna go in and tack weld everywhere I've got a spot with the drill bit, because the metal's gonna be thin right there in the center. So I'm gonna spot weld all those, and then I'll go back and grind it flat. But when I was taking this loose, I noticed that a lot of this is loose. So there's a lot of spot welds that's come out of this. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove it. It's just probably about, I don't know, about 10 more spot welds maybe. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this piece. That way I can patch this end. It's rusty too, right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and chop the end off and rebuild it. And that way, with this out of the way, it'll give me a lot of good area to get in here and cut a lot of this out and patch in a new piece there. But anyway, this will be out of the way, and then I'll have more room to get to this, because it looks like this goes on around the corner right here just a little bit. So with this out of the way, it's just kind of the way to go anyway. But anyway, once those are out, this is out, and that stuff is patched, I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna spot blast all this stuff first. Spot blast the areas and then patch them. Then I'll go back and blast the rest of it. Probably put some epoxy on there or something, but anyway, I'll mask off about a, I don't know, an inch wide area right here. This will be masked off, just this little spot about an inch wide, and this will be on the bare metal. This will be weld through primer, so this will be the gold or the copper color. And then after I spray that, I'll go through and mask that off. Just use a, run the tape along there. And I'll do the same on this piece here. It'll have a strip of weld through primer on there. That's the copper color. And then mask it off, and then the rest of it all, it'll be all painted epoxy black. So that'll look pretty good. So I'm gonna have to end up making this. This is pretty unique. I got to looking at this. That is actually a separate little piece, and it's still in good shape, other than where I almost sliced through it with a cutoff wheel when I was cutting the quarter off. So I'm going to weld these ends right here up and go back and regrind them. But I'm going to remove this outer piece right here because there's nothing wrong with it. It just needs to be blasted, and I can reuse it. And then this piece here, it has a bend in it, a flange on it, but it should have a 90-degree flange here and here as well, and these are completely gone, as is part of this part. So I'm going to make this out of flat sheet metal, and I'll do my step beads and my bead roller, and I'll trace this out, and I'll follow that exact contour, so I'll have that step in there, and then I'll just cut it out. So it should have the same exact flange. It doesn't need to be exactly perfect. The flange can be a little bit wider if it has to be, but I'll get it as close as I can. And then I'll just bend up the 90 here and a 90 here, and plug weld this piece back on, and it should be just back identical to stock. So when I buy the new seal kit, it'll come with the new seal that goes in there, and I'm just going to glue those on. They were stapled from the factory, but I'm going to glue them on. But anyway, so this piece will get put back in like it's supposed to and be all hand built. I enjoy this metal stuff. I don't enjoy this part so much, but this is just part of it when you're restoring a car and trying to make it, back pretty top notch, I guess. It's not like the car's getting professionally done or nothing, but I'm gonna make sure it's done good enough for my satisfaction. Well, I got in there editing a video for this, and my closeout video froze like 2 seconds in after I hit the record button. So here's the closeout video. So I went ahead and removed the inner splash shield here, and threw it back here. I got it off without tearing it up, so I can clean it up and reuse it. I have to rebuild the end down here, and then I got to patch this little piece here. So this piece goes from skinny to wide, so I'm gonna hand fab that, and then I'm just gonna replace this whole piece from the 4-door and put on there because they're the same, and then I got to hand build that piece up there. But I got the undercoating scraped off, and the only thing left is just like the surface rust dirt stuff. But I'm going to put plastic, Bisqueen plastic, a couple of rolls I'm going to use tomorrow. I'm going to lay one under the car and then stuff it back up under here, and probably tape it along the back side of this flange and down through there, and let it drape down. And that way when I'm blasting with my little blaster, it kind of hits it and just slides down to the bottom, and that way I can sweep it back up and sift it back into the pot and reuse it. So I'm probably going to hang another piece of plastic kind of around back here, kind of like the back of a shower curtain, and that'll just kind of keep everything contained in one area for me to do a cleanup on. But anyway, after getting off this piece, all this is really nice, but I'm glad I took that off because this actually went around the back side. So when I cut the piece out of the door, I'm just going to cut it extra long and then bend it around, and then I'll just basically cut it and splice it in. The bottom's still good, but I'm going to blast all this first just to make sure. But noticed I had a couple of rust holes up there, so I'll have to do some patching up here. So there's a lot of patching to do, but before I was going to lightly blast all this and put POR 15 on it, and I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to go ahead and blast it to clean, nice metal, and then I'm going to go back and put weld-through primer strips, like about what you see right here. After it's clean, it'll be weld-through primer up here and weld-through primer on here, and then after that dries for about an hour, I'm going to go back and mask it off with some of that blue painter's tape, and I'll mask off that, and then I'll go back in and paint every bit of this with an epoxy primer, and then I'll peel the tape off, and then where that weld-through primer is, it'll be that gold copper color. And when I get these two, of course I got to get the one off the 4-door, but this piece here, after I get it all rebuilt, I'm going to put weld-through primer on it as well, and mask it off, and then paint the rest of it epoxy, and then plug weld it back on. So that will take care of this side of the car, where all this inner structure is solid again and nice, and I won't have any issues. But I'll have to hand fab this, which is going to take a little bit of time, but probably have to make it out of a couple different pieces. But anyway, that's it for today. I am done, and I'm going to hit it tomorrow, man. See what I can get done by the end of the weekend. I'm going to go ahead and post this video, though, since there's enough footage. Well, I had to come back out and do a closeout video because the one that I recorded at the end when I was done, before I cleaned up, I hit the record button and the GoPro froze like 2 or 3 seconds in. So so I got all the undercoating scraped off. I went ahead and removed the forward splash shield. I'm glad I did, because that rust actually comes around the back side, so now I can cut out a longer patch. The only thing left is surface rust and just like some dirt. So I was before going to lightly blast this and use POR 15, because you're supposed to put that stuff over rust, not bare metal. But I've changed my mind. I'm going to go ahead and blast this all really nice, clean metal. And I'll go in and I'm going to paint with the weld-through primer, which is a gold copper color. I will put masking tape on this area where that flange is to be plug welded back on. And this will be painted with the weld through primer, and also right through there and down after I patch everything. And anyway, I'll go back after that dries for about an hour, and I'm going to put the blue painter's tape on those, and then I'm going to go in and put epoxy primer on all this. So this will be patched, and the rust will be taken care of and done on this side, and it'll look really, really nice. And when I pull the tape, all that'll be on there is you'll just see the gold on the black, and then that way I can plug weld on these pieces again. I'll have to do the same thing to these. These will have to be blasted. Of course, I'm using the one off the four-door. This is the one off this car. The one on the four-door is really nice. So I'm just going to drill the spot welds out and plug weld it on here. But the forward one's different than a four-door, so I've got to repair this one. I don't want to buy a new one. I can patch all this stuff for free. I have sheet metal here. So anyway, I'll have to get all the undercoat cleaned off of this and do the same thing, blast it, patch it, put the weld through primer on just the area it's going to be plug welded, which is pretty much the back side of that. And I'll have to hammer and dolly it too, but anyway, I'll have to patch all this. But that's a plan for this weekend, is to get all of this patched and it painted. So I think it'll look pretty cool. When I pull the tape off, you'll see gold stripes on there on the primer. The primer I have is black, if it's still good. I found a little quart of epoxy primer in there when I was digging through my cabinet the other day, and I hope it's still good. I haven't opened it yet. So I've decided I'm going to go ahead and cut this quarter panel off on the car as well. And I'm going to cut it off in about the same way I did this one. I'm going to remove the spot welds down here along the flange, along the bottom, and then I'll cut it right up through here. Just a straight line, leave about a 1/2 inch, and then cut it right up through here, just like I did the other side, all the way back. And then I'm going to remove the lid out of here, and because I always weld this up anyway, tack it up and then grind it. So anyway, I'll remove this from that piece. That way the whole quarter will come off. I'll have to remove the spot weld on the... It's not connected anyway. Oh yeah, it is, right here. There's a splash shield back here. So I'll drill that spot weld out. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pull that quarter panel off because it needs repaired anyway. And I know there's going to be some structure problems in behind this, and that's the reason I'm going to pull it. I'm not scared of work, and I'm sure not scared of metal work for sure, but that's going to prolong this car's life, getting in there. And instead of just going in and patching this piece right here, you don't know what's lurking behind there, and I want to make sure the car is nice. Don't think this is going to be a pile of crap, you know, just because it's going to be in primer. This is going to be a nice car, and I've got some neat little surprises in store for this car. But if I ever do paint it down the road, it'll be a really, really nice car. But this is just part of it. When you're restoring a car, you have all the stuff that's inside the car, and it needs to be done. And I'm gonna do it. But anyway, should make for some good videos. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe.